About 20 years ago, when Ken and I first got here, we were divorced, and so it'll be 20 years ago in September we did this. September is my birthday, and he was trying to get back together with me, so he wanted to fly me over for the day to see the volcanoes on the Big Island. And I wasn't quite sure, but thought, well, I wanted to see that. So we went, we flew over, and it's just, a 30-minute flight from here, something or less. And from the time my foot stepped foot on that island, the Lord started talking to me, and there were no active lava flows at that time. So we rented a car and drove down to all over, actually, but mainly to see the Volcanoes National Park and to see lavas. And there was some lava at that time flowing in the ocean, but some of you might have heard the story, some of you might not have. But at any rate, the Lord started talking to me about faith, and he said, one of the reasons I have you here in these islands is to teach you about faith. And he said, lava rising up, and the volcanoes in Hawaii are shield volcanoes, so that means they ooze, they don't explode, they're not explosive like Mount St. Helens up in the northwest or other ones. They ooze and kind of gently flow downhill and create new land. And so the Lord was saying, that's what I'm teaching you about. This is something deep I'm doing in you, that I'm going to cause your faith to rise up and overflow, and it will begin to eradicate everything in its path. And it might seem destructive, and it might seem like you're doing the wrong thing, but it's going to eventually make new land that you can walk on. And he said that's the whole that's what I was getting, the revelation I was getting 20 years ago. So I think it's very, very, very appropriate and apropos right now that this volcano is oozing. And as of last week, over 3,700 square feet, almost a mile, they say now, from what I read yesterday, of new land has been added to the Big Island. And when you look at it from the air, it's pretty cool. It looks like a hand or something sticking out way past where the land was. And it's created this whole new little bay and inlet. And yes, it took out houses. Yes, it took out property. But for those of you who don't live here, understand that people who built in that neighborhood knew the risk, that it was high risk. I don't even think they can get insurance. It's lava level 1, so they can't even get insurance for building there. Because it's known that that's going to be an area that's highly prone to lava. Anyway, my point in all of this is, or God's point is, that faith is overflowing, faith is erupting. Some people are going to try it. It's going to seem like it's destructive, it's going to destroy things, but in the end, from God's perspective, it's creating new land. A friend of mine, Michelle, sent us something yesterday about how it's actually raining peridot and olivine, which is like the precursor, I think, to peridot, because when volcanoes do that, and then the stuff, I don't quite understand how it works, but something in the water and the air and all that create peridot. And I heard Jesse Duplantis say once that on Jupiter it actually rains diamonds. When there's storms there, it rains diamonds. And I thought, how paltry our imaginations are to think that God's wealth, we're concerned about what we're going to eat, what we're going to drink, what we're going to wear, where we're going to live. And God is like saying, look at this. I am raining peridot on the Big Islands. On Jupiter, I rain diamonds. This is what is too hard for me. So just wanted to share that, the fact that this volcano is going off and creating new land. I think it's a sign to the body of Christ that the Lord has you release your faith, even though it might seem like it's the totally wrong thing to be going on, that it is creating new land, that you will eventually walk on it. It's reshaping the face of continents, of land, of nations, of this state even. And for those of you who don't know, there's actually a new island further south of the big island that's been forming for quite a few years now. It even has a name, but it's underwater. It hasn't broken water yet. So there's a new island already forming. So God is progressive and always surprising. And even though this seemed very dramatic to the rest of the world, and people have played it as, yes, people did lose property and stuff like that, but we have to learn to look at this from God's perspective. And this is what he told me, he's been teaching me for 20 years, is to let my faith rise, overflow, and it will eventually destroy anything in its way.